Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with a very first time triple threat battle to the death. Not a three-way battle to the death, because I don't know if YouTube would take that as innuendo and demonetize my videos. So we're going to call it triple threat battle to the death. When in doubt, use wrestling terms, right? When in doubt, wrestling. It's one of my I don't know. I guess it's a catchphrase for me now. When in doubt, wrestling. Anywho, we're comparing three very cool 3-inch blade, fairly lightweight EDC knives, all in the $75 to $85 category. Up top, we have the Kizer Vanguard Gemini, which is a less expensive version of one of Kizer's best knives and one of my favorite knives in the world, the Ray Laconico Gemini, which is about $170. This is an $80 version. Instead of the titanium frame lock in S35, you get a G10 liner lock with VG10. Next up, we have one of my favorite representations of one of Spyderco's most popular lines. This is the Native 5 lightweight with S35 VN steel. The Native 5 comes in a bazillion different versions itself, and has also spawned other cool knives like the Lil Native, which I love, and the Shaman, which is larger, which I love probably even more. But this is my favorite version of the standard Native 5, and it's the only one that's in the same price range as these. The other ones are a bit more pricey. Lastly but not leastly, we have the Kershaw Dividend M390 steel. Now, I did say in a previous video that I was not going to review knives that were no longer available, and I meant that. The Kershaw Dividend M390 is not currently available as I'm recording this, which is January 1st, 2018. It is not currently available anywhere that I could find, but I have on good sources that it's coming back again. And if you look online, you'll see a lot of websites, instead of it saying discontinued, now it says out of stock, email me when available. And I talked to my local dealer, and yeah, he was told that it's probably coming back. I don't know if it's going to be the same blade or same handle color or anything, but also part B, if this was the S35 VN House of Blades exclusive, which is still available, or if it was the Damascus full-on production version that you can get all the time that is priced about the same as these, it would not have affected the outcome of this review whatsoever. Yeah, you can get this in cheaper steel for like $35. You can get it in Sandvik for like $40. So yeah, ignore those versions. All the versions that are priced similar to this, if this was the M390, the S35 VN, or the Damascus, it would not have changed the outcome of this review whatsoever. So the M390 is what we're using. All right, have I explained myself enough for you guys? I hope so, because I'm really excited about this review. This is a category of knife that I carry a whole lot. I like that 3-inch blade. If I'm only going to have one knife on me, this is that kind of, between size that I do like a lot. It's not a little bitty one like the Little Native or something like that, or like a Spyderco Chaparral or something, or a traditional. It's a little bigger than that, but it's not so big that I worry about, it freaking people out when I take it out or something like that. So if I'm going to carry one knife, this is the size that I carry a whole lot. I often carry two, but if I'm going to carry one, this is kind of the size I get into. All right, let's just get right into the stats, people. I think I've explained myself enough here. Let's just start right out with, since it's the one on top, we'll start out with the Kizer Vanguard Gemini. As I said, blade length, this one is the biggest blade of them. This is only, but it's not by much, 3.125 inches. Overall length of 7.25 inches. We have a blade thickness of 0.11 inches, which you'll find shortly comes right in between the other two. And you have a handle thickness of 0.43 inches. As I said, the handle material is G10, and it's a frame lock. It is the heaviest of the group at 3.6 ounces. The other two are quite a bit lighter. Let's move on to the next one. We have the Kershaw Dividend M390. Make sure all my camera angles are correct. I'm sorry, I just watched a Johnny Carson documentary, so I may slip into Johnny Carson voice. 3-inch blade length, overall length of 7.25. Blade thickness, by far the thinnest of them. This is 0.9 inches. This is a very thin, slicey little blade. You have a handle length of 4.25 inches and an overall weight of 2.95 ounces, which puts it right between the other two knives in this review. But I think the real highlight spec of this particular knife, of the Dividend, and this is true for any of them, even the less expensive ones, is that the handle thickness is only 0.35 inches. This is a very thin blade handle. And lastly, we will do the Native 5 lightweight. Change pages on my notes here. We have an overall length of 6.8 inches, blade length of 3 inches, and we have the blade thickness of 0.13 inches, so this is the beefiest blade of the three. Handle thickness 0.43, again exactly the same as the Kizer, and handle length of 4 inches. And this one's killer feature, I think, is obviously the weight, because it's called a lightweight for a reason. It's only 2.4 ounces. It's a very, very light knife. Now let's bring all these back out here again and explain what the rules are going to be now that I've got the boring stats and the explanation out of the way. Here's what the rules are, since this is my first time I've had three knives I'm doing these comparisons with. What we're going to do is I actually took notes and gave points. So on each category, we're going to have aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, deployment, and carry. Each knife, if it gets first, is going to get 3 points. If it gets second, it's going to get 2. If it finishes last, it's going to get 1. If there's a tie between all three, they get nothing. You get nothing. You get nothing. So that's how the scoring is going to go. But let's just get right into the actual scoring categories. I'm going to try and keep all three on screen as I do this. I hope it's not too confusing. Let's just talk about aesthetics. The Vanguard Gemini looks fine, but as I've said about other knives, it is kind of an uninspiring design, and a lot of people say that about the more expensive Gemini too. That's the number one criticism of an otherwise universally regaled knife, is that it's kind of boring looking, and the Vanguard Gemini is no different. It is kind of boring looking. I mean, it's a little more visually interesting with these strakes in it and stuff than its more expensive brother, but it's not an exciting looking knife by any means. It looks okay, but it's not fantastic or anything. I have no issues with it, but it doesn't excite me too much. The Native 5, a lightweight, kind of the same thing. I like the way it looks, fine, but because I like Spydercos, but it looks like every other, lightweight FRCP style Spyderco. It just kind of looks like all the other ones. I know there's nothing they could really do to make it look different, and that's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, but it is kind of boring looking, and it's just plain old black. Maybe if it was in a bright, flashy color, I'd feel different, but it doesn't really blow me away. I do, on the other hand, really like the looks of the Dividend. It's got some nice swoops. Again, this is just aesthetics, and it's on the eye of the beholder. Some of you guys may disagree. It has some very nice swoopiness to it. I like the look of the Wharncliffe blade. I like the way that this is kind of a modified Wharncliffe, I'd call it, because it does still have some belly to it. It's not just completely straight across, but I like the look of that. I like the look of the finish. I like the backwards American flag, now that I know why it's backwards. It's backwards, by the way, because I guess on military equipment often that's what they do. I was in the military, I never noticed that, but that's what I saw somewhere, and it sounds like a cool story, so I'll believe it. I like the finish. So by a narrow margin, I'm going to give the first place in the aesthetics category to the Dividend, second place to the Vanguard Gemini, and third place to the Native 5. Now, let's go on to quality. This one actually kind of surprised me, because when it comes down to quality, I think a lot of us would think, oh, the Spyderco's going to win this. Well, yeah, it surprised me. It didn't. We'll go from the order that I'm just going to give you a spoiler to the order that they came in. So they came in like that. Start from the bottom. The Kizer quality of the Gemini is good. It's very good. Don't get me wrong. It's very good. The bearings weren't outstanding when I got it. It has broken in and gotten a lot better, but I thought it took too long to break in. This G10 spacer isn't flush. The G10 on the handles feels good, but there are some kind of rough edges. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It is the. I love the Vanguard series. They're great. I mean, God, I love the Dukes. That I've got one of those. That thing is great, but it's just not as good as the other two here on the table. Second place, we have the Native 5. Obviously, it's your typical Golden, Colorado, USA Earth made Spyderco, and yeah, it feels really good. There's nothing to really complain about. But, it feels like an FRCP, Golden, Colorado, Spyderco, which quality-wise, they just, I don't know, just in the hand, that kind of, not in the measuring tolerances sort of quality, but just in the overall, that indescribable, just feeling in your hand quality, it doesn't feel quite as good as my surprise. I thought this would probably finish last, but yeah, the USA-made Kershaws are just really nice, and this is the best one I've ever held. It's just the feel of the aluminum handles, everything is totally, completely flush. The screws are all excellent quality. The clip feels nice. This is extremely well made, and I have to give, in that order, third place, second place, first place to those in that order. So we have third place to the Vanguard Gemini, second place to the Native 5, first place to the Dividend M390. Now, let's talk about the blade. These are knives. This is the most important thing, right? I went back and forth on this so much that I'm going to call it a three-way tie. It's my first triple threat three-way review, and I'm going to call it a tie because it depends on what you want. Now, blade steel, obviously, if you're just looking at steel, the M390 is the best. Absolutely. But again, the status of this knife, if it's available or not, is slightly ambiguous at the moment. But even if it was the S35 or the Damascus, it would not change this win because I love the shape of this for a lot of things I do. But if I'm going out to do something where I think maybe, well, I don't think I'm going to do anything heavy duty, but maybe I might have to, rip into 4 layers of cardboard or, cut into some sheetrock or something like that, I'm not going to take this because the blade is so thin and the tip is so pointy and it's very stabby and cool and it's great for a whole lot of tasks, but it's not really an EDC kind of blade. I mean, it's fine for most people's EDC tasks, but those surprise, you got to do some shit. It's not a great. It's a little too thin for that, and I'd be so worried about breaking a tip off or something like that it does give me pause every now and then when I go to grab it. Now, the shape on the Native 5 is great, as is the steel. I love the shape on this. It's really, really good. But with the finger choils, you lose so much cutting that cutting area that I can't call it a winner either. I like the steel on this. I like the shape of it, but it's once you're choking up with this, you're losing a whole lot of length. So I can't give that the win either. Now, this is by far my favorite blade shape, and I love the finish on it. I like the stone wash and everything. It's cool. It's an excellent blade shape. That's one of the things I love so much about the full-on Gemini with the S35, but it's only VG10. So, which isn't awful, but it's not great. So I can't give this the win either. So, anticlimactic three-way tie for the blade. I really thought this would win it, but it's just so thin that sometimes it gives me pause. So I couldn't in good consciousness give it the full-on win. Now, let's talk about ergonomics. We're going to, we'll just start from the top and go down, and I'll tell you later. The ergonomics on this are pretty good. I do like the way it feels in the hand. It's not nearly as bad as you'd think for a handle this thin, but it is a handle this thin. So you do feel, not hot spots, but you do notice it's a thin knife in your hand. It does feel like if you hacked at something, it would twist in your hand a little bit. And with that blade, you're probably not going to be doing that anyway. And my hand does fit on it. Again, these are large size glove hands, skinny fingers, but large gloves. And it does fit into my hand, but there's not a whole lot extra left. So the ergonomics on this are pretty good, but yeah, and not. This is gonna be last in the ergonomics category. A lot of other things to like about it, but ergonomics are not one of them. Now, the next one we have up is in the ergonomics category is the Gemini Vanguard, which is really good. It's really, really good. Its big brother is superb. This is just really good. And the reason why it's not higher is the same reason that its bigger brother is more expensive brother, I guess I should say, is not perfect, is there's no jimping up here. And I would prefer that Ray Laconico's name was moved down farther and there was some jimping up here. Yeah, it's not, it really needs that, I think. The way I use it a lot, I do find my finger moving around on it a lot. There are no hot spots or anything. There's nothing egregious, nothing atrocious or terrible about it. But it's good, but it would be much better with a bit of jimping. Maybe even a bit of a ramp there. I'd like it more. But the winner, very clearly in this category, is the Native 5 lightweight. The Native 5 feels great in the hand. You could choke up like this. There's a ton of jimping available. And again, there's a trade-off. It robs, some of the cutting area, but it fits really good in the hand. No hot spots whatsoever. The FRCP makes it super grippy. It's not going to move. It's bidirectional, so no matter which way, whether you're going front or back, it doesn't move at all. Yeah, this is a very clear winner in ergonomics. The Native 5 feels like a much larger knife when you have it in your hand, and that's one of the things I love so much about it. Now, we have our final category we're going to get into is carry. Now, in carry, I was not sure which one would win at all, and I actually carried them a whole lot to figure this out. But there was one clear one that I didn't know which one of two was going to win. I knew one wasn't, and we'll get that out of the way. I knew from doing the review on this one, I knew this one wasn't going to win in carry, because this G10 is really grippy. When it's in your pocket, it's very difficult to get in and out. It's a flipper tab, so it's going to be sticking out in your pocket. And I just knew it wasn't going to win. I don't like the way this is so hard to get in and out. I had to bend the pocket clip out a bit to make it even so I could really stand carrying it. Yeah, that didn't go. I knew this is a distant third as far as how it feels in your pocket. Some people don't use the pocket clip. If you don't use the pocket clip, it's probably fine for you. But if you use the pocket clip, it's not great to carry in your pocket. Second place would go to the Native 5 lightweight. It is very light, so I like that about it. Definitely, you don't feel it much in your pocket. It does stick up a fair amount, sticking out of your pocket, and that's probably the thing that made it finally, quote-unquote, lose this category, finish second. And it is, again, it's a bit grippy getting out of your pocket. Not nearly as bad as that, but still a bit grippy. Now, the Dividend, and this applies to any version of the Dividend, even the less expensive ones, that they have the aluminum handles, not the plastic handle ones, but any of the other ones, this is a dream to carry in your pocket. It's super easy to slip in and out, and it's so bloody thin that it's totally disappears in the pocket. There is no deep carry pocket clip, but you can just call Kershaw and they'll send you one for free, which is a huge advantage. Spyderco will not do that. You're gonna have to spend $20 or $30 on another one. This is great to carry in the pocket. It is an absolute dream, and that's why I carry it a whole lot. It's just because it's so easy to slip in and out of my pocket and forget that it's there, and it's just a great, great knife in the pocket. It is so good. And I lied to you. I said carry was the last category. It is not. The last category is deployment. That's the one I forgot. In deployment, again, we'll go from last to first. In deployment, the last one is the Dividend. Just because I'm not a gigantic fan of assists, and this is a Kershaw Speed Safe assisted knife. It does pop right out. Now, I will say, the Kershaw Speed Safe is my favorite assist. Every knife that's had Speed Safe on it has not morally offended me like some other brands that have assists that I will not name, but this is pretty good for an assist. But for an assist, I prefer a manual knife. I just do, and I think a lot of you who watch this channel and are big knife nerds are going to agree with me on that. If I can choose not to have an assist, I'm not going to have an assist. So it's got to finish last just because it's assisted. Second is the Native 5 because it is a backlock. The backlocks are great. They're fine. They work very well for their purpose. It's definitely a very secure lockup, but it's not fun. It's just not fun. You know, you kind of got to... This is not a terribly Spidey flickable knife. You can do it, but it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of flamboyancy, and I don't like that. It's fun to close. I do like closing backlocks. I do like doing that little push and dropping it down. It's fun, but it's just not fun. There's no joy in opening and closing this knife. Where the clear winner in this one was the Vanguard Gemini because it is a fiddleable, playable, fun to play with knife. As I said, out of the box, the bearings were not outstanding. They've gotten better over time. I've oiled them a bit and stuff, and they've gotten better. But I kind of chalk that up to production tolerances because I have other Kizer Vanguards that are outstanding. But it's still now that I've got it broken in, it's fun. It is a flickable, playable, fun knife. You want something just to sit and play with at your desk, this will fit the bill. It is not the best flipper in the world, but it's enough fun that it still fills a toy category in my heart where these two don't. These two aren't toys. I don't get any joy out of opening and closing these. So hope that explains it. So now let's total up the scores. What we have. Let's just go to what we've been doing the whole time. Let's go from last to best. And you know what? They're kind of lined up that way. Last place, we have the Kizer Vanguard Gemini. Great knife. You want to spend $80 on a Kizer in the Vanguard series. This is a great blade shape. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's a good choice. There's nothing wrong with it. But I don't think if you're going to spend $80 on a 3-inch blade knife, it's your best choice. Second place is the Spyderco Native 5, a lightweight, also great knife, great blade shape. And I love the comfort that the choils provide me, but you lose so much blade shape that or so much cutting edge in the blade that it really almost doesn't even fit against other 3-inch blades, if that makes any sense. I know I'm comparing against two other 3-inch blades, so maybe I'm being unfair, but it feels bigger in your hand than these other two knives, but when you're using it, it feels smaller. So that's what makes this finish second instead of first. Oh, by the way, the Gemini had 9 points. This had 10 points. This is much closer than I thought it was going to be. This came up with 10 points. And the winner with 11 points is, surprise to me, the Dividend M390. I like both these knives a lot, but I just kind of thought I'd wind up picking this. But once I really analyzed stuff and was really weird about it and added up scores and took notes, I gotta say the Dividend M390. And again, these 11 points would also qualify if this was the Damascus, if this was the S35VN. If it was the $35 or the $40 versions, it probably would not get as many points, but in this version, I really like it. It's great. Gotta give a 1-point win to the Kershaw Dividend M390. The math don't lie. So yeah, this is the first time I've done one of these triple threat battles. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys also are going to have a great 2018 because 2017 was not awesome. So hopefully 2018 will be. Have a good one. Talk to you later, guys.